5 Australians were among 80 people on a boat that's capsized off Bali. Authorities say 2 Chinese nationals and an Indonesian crew member died when the boat overturned off Sanur. The speedboat was travelling from the resort town of Nusa Penida to Bali when it was struck by large waves and capsized. Australian consular officials are providing assistance to those affected. None of them required treatment in hospital, the Australians. Marine accidents are common in Indonesia, in part due to lax safety standards and bad weather. Last month, a ferry sank on its way to Bali, killing at least 19 people. And in March, an Australian woman died when a boat carrying 16 people capsized. This is the 4th serious boat accident off Bali this year. 3 of them have been deadly. Australians account for more than a quarter of the tourists in Bali, with more than 1 million Australians visiting every year. So it's hugely popular with Australians. Joining us now from Melbourne is travel journalist, commentator and host of the World Awaits travel podcast, Belinda Jackson. Belinda Jackson, welcome. So what's been happening in recent years with the number of trips on boats from places on Bali to surrounding islands and back?
Well, as you've said, Australians really love Bali, and we've loved it even harder after COVID. I mean, last year, more than 1.5 million Australians visited Bali. And as we explore it, we're going further afield. So places like Nusa Penida have become really popular because, we want to explore more of the islands. But also it's also become a social media sensation for its beautiful beaches. So, when you see that more people are lured to going to places such as this island and the Gili Islands, which are in between Bali and Lombok. So really, we are exploring further past the traditional areas of Kuta and that part of Bali. So, with that comes more sea, there's a lot more boats running out to those areas. There's, you can do day trips, you can stay on the islands now that you never used to be able to do, and you're seeing a growth in villas and resorts being built on those islands. So we're being lured out to the islands, and the problem is that the infrastructure hasn't kept up with it.
Yeah, and so just how treacherous can the waters and the weather around there be?
Well, this is actually a really deep ocean channel that runs between Bali and Lombok. And, there are two, there's the rainy season and the dry season. And received wisdom says that the drier months are better. But there are months such as around July, which, July, August that we're seeing now, where you have more ocean swells happening and higher winds as well. So, but I would take that with a grain of salt because, with the change in global weather patterns as well, then what was already a fairly treacherous crossing has become even less predictable.
So what's the standard of regulation of tourism operators there?
Well, there are regulators, there are regulations for the boats. Whether those regulations are being followed is another thing. So you'll find, there are a couple of tiers of transport particularly between Bali and the islands to Lombok. So there are public ferries, and then there are ferries that are geared more at the tourist market, and they vary in terms of their size, in terms of their capacity. But the question is, yes, there are regulations. Are they being followed? And then again, are those regulations being policed as well? So it really is a multi-tiered failure, I believe.
So, as we've said, so many Australians go there. How can tourists make the best decision about which company to go with? And should they be looking at weather forecasts themselves and making a call on whether or not to go on a particular day?
I think watching the weather, of course, makes a lot of sense, but also using your common sense when you're looking at a boat. If you're in a boat, this boat had 80 people in it, and you have to make a common sense call, really. But then you can ask as well, is there a life jacket for every person on that boat? If there's not, don't get on the boat. If there's, you can do your own due diligence and having a look at social media sites. There are a lot of platforms on social media where people are discussing different boats and their, the fact that they seem to be run in a safe manner, that they have got things like safety briefings, that the captain actually owns, whether the captain owns the boat or they're hiring the boat, which often can be an indication that they're just doing runs to make the money for it. choosing a cheaper boat isn't necessarily always the way to go if you're going to save a few dollars over, having such an incident where the boat isn't set up for poor weather as well. So I think that travellers really have to make those decisions. They have to use common sense. They can also use social media platforms, and they can ask the questions as well. Have you, if you go through those security requests, do you have insurance? Does your captain have a license? Those are really basic questions that should be able to be asked by the people that are selling the tickets for the boat. I mean, whether you're buying from a third party, I would suggest, buying direct from the company itself and putting those questions to the boat. And ultimately, when you're standing at the port, you need to make that call. Does it feel right? And if it doesn't feel right, don't get on the boat.